Okay, so I'm just back from a ride, and I had a bit of an issue with the gear indicator that's fitted to my bike. So basically this there is, I don't know how well you can see that. In fact, let me do this properly. I was out on a ride and I've got a GIpro HealTech gear indicator fitted to this bike. So if I can just show you there, so that there is the gear indicator, and so it's an aftermarket part because this year of Fireblade doesn't have a gear indicator anyway on the dash, and it's been working fine up until today. So basically went out for a ride and then all of a sudden I looked down and I noticed that it wasn't reading gears anymore. You know, the gear indicator itself was still working, like there was still a signal going to the gear indicator, but it just had a horizontal dash rather than actually displaying the number of the gears, and it wouldn't register any of the gears. So there used to be a method of resetting it which didn't work, and while I was out I had the seat off and I checked the connection, it all seemed fine, but I disconnected it, reconnected it, didn't work. So I'm going to have to try and have a closer look and see what's wrong with that. So I thought I'd get you to join me basically. So I will try and do some moving around with the camera, and I'll explain what I'm doing as I go. I'm not promising that I'm going to be able to fix this, by the way, because it might be that the gear indicator itself has a fault and I might have to replace it, which is fine. It's not that expensive. I think probably about 100 quid, maybe even cheaper. But it's just a little bit of a pain in the arse more than anything, because I like glancing down and just reminding myself what gear I'm in. The die-hard old-fashioned bikers amongst you, which I probably class myself as an old-fashioned biker, but some of you might say that actually just do it the old way and just count the gears. But why would I do that when I've got a gear indicator? So yeah, hopefully I can get it working, but if not, I'll just have to buy a new one. So, but now I'm back home, it'll allow me to have a closer look. But so I've got my tools, I'm going to get the seat off. I've got my Manly vanilla latte, which is really going to help me diagnose a fault. And let's see what I can find out. So basically, let me see if I can bring you in here. The gear indicator plugs into this red OBD port, and while I was out and about I disconnected it and all the connections look fine, like there's not a broken connection or anything. So I just need to disconnect it. I might even disconnect the battery as well to see if that does anything at all. So maybe disconnecting the battery completely might help a little bit. Apologies with the very poor camera work. Right, I have no clue how well you can all see that, but yeah, this is the old OBD port that I was talking about. So let's get that disconnected. Let's disconnect the battery first. Actually, let's take the battery off, because that's going to give me a bit more room to maneuver, a bit more space to play with. So I now have a little bit more room to work with. This is the OBD port that I need to pay attention to. I need to double check. So let me just disconnect that, and then see, all the pins are good and there's no damage there. So I need to get a torch and have a close look at some of this wiring, because I don't know if it's a wiring issue at this end. It could also be a wiring issue at this end. So maybe there's something going on in here that is the problem. I don't know, and I'm not sure, because like I say, there's power going to the unit works, but it's just not registering the gears. So it's either that or it's something to do with my gearbox, and who knows. So I could get a bit of contact cleaner, just clean those out, and then try and reconnect that and see how that goes. So I'll come back to you in a second. Right, so update, I disconnected the battery. gave the connection between the OBD port and the the GIpro indicator a bit of a clean, reconnected it and reconnected the battery. So the same thing is happening. Basically, it's coming on and it's cycling through 1 to 6 on startup as you would expect, and then it goes to 0, and then it shows a dashed line until what normally should happen is when you pull away in first gear, then it registers first gear. But it's staying at that dashed line and it's not picking up any gears. So I'm a little bit stumped. What I might do, however, is get the tank cover off and just check, because the cable for the gear indicator runs underneath the tank under there. That should be fine, because like I say, it's still getting a signal, but just to be sure, I'm going to take the tank cover off and just double check everything. But if that's not working, I'm not sure. I might have to do a bit of research, find out if anyone else has had a similar problem, and if anyone else who's watching this, by the way, if you've had the same problem, let me know, because it's doing my bloody head in before I have to go and order a new one. Okay, so that's the tank cover off. Let's have a look around this side and see what's what. So the cable for the gear shift indicator is tucked underneath the airbox. I don't know how well you can see that. So yeah, that's gone underneath the airbox and underneath the tank more than likely. So I can't really get to it unless I take the airbox off, and I don't fancy doing that, because I'd have to lift the tank and prop the tank up and basically disconnect these electrical connectors, unscrew the airbox, take that off, and then go from there. But like I say, it's unlikely to be a problem under there because it's still getting a signal. So if it was dodgy wiring, then I imagine it wouldn't be getting the signal. I can't imagine it would be a problem under here, especially because it's lived under here for as long as I have had the bike anyway, because this was fitted before I bought the bike. So I am stumped. I'm stumped. I don't fancy fucking about with the tank. I really don't, because when you lift the tank up, you've got to be careful that the breather pipes don't come off, and when they do come off, they might be a bit of a pain to get back on, and I ain't got time to fuck about. There's nothing wrong with the gear shift system. The bike's running fine, it's changing gears, there's nothing wrong there. There's nothing wrong with the gear box. So it must be this. Must be. But I guess if I replace it, I'm going to have to get this off anyway. So, do I take that off? I suppose I could. It might not take that long. I just know it's just going to be one of those things that I'll start and then I'll regret starting it. Why the hell is it rooted underneath there? We'll see. Where does that run to? I can see it. Yeah, it's right underneath the bloody tank. Well, that's a job. That's a job and a half now. So what should have been a simple job, just taking the cover off and checking out wire, like anything on a motorbike, has now turned into one hell of a job, because I'm going to have to get the tank off, or at least prop the tank up and get the airbox off. Jesus Christ. So yeah, absolute pain in the rectum. But I will probably do it actually, because if I do have to replace the gear shift indicator, which is looking like I might have to, then I'm going to have to get the tank up and get the airbox off anyway to get the old gear shift indicator off. because it's rooted underneath the bloody airbox. Who did that? Who bloody did that? Right, I decided to do it. So tank is up. I'm gonna have to stop in a minute anyway because I need to nip out. But tank is up, and I've just been careful not to pull any of the breather pipes or fuel pipes off the bottom of the tank, because they can be a pain to put back on. So all I need to do now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, disconnect those, and then I can take the top of the airbox off, and hopefully I can then get underneath there. So let's see if I can do that now. Okay, so good news is after all that I started to take everything apart so I could take the airbox off, but I managed to get the airbox loose enough that I could get the cable out from underneath the airbox. So this is the cable that runs to the gear indicator. So rather than tuck it under the airbox, I'm going to sort of leave it loose along there, along the top of the frame, and I'm going to tidy up the excess underneath where the battery is, so I don't have to go through that pain in the ass again. So all I've got to do now then is put all the screws back in here, put the airbox all back together, connect all these connectors back up, and put the tank back on and put it all back together. So, but yeah, good. That was a good bit of news. But I will test it again, because I don't know whether or not this cable was getting snagged or whether that was causing a problem, but we'll see. I can only try. Right, so I have put everything back together almost. I just need to secure this little cover, put the tank cover back on, put the seat back on. So I ran the bike up again. So now that I've taken everything apart and then put it back together again, I just thought I would just on the off chance that would it would just work and maybe sort its own little gremlins out, but it hasn't. So the gear speed indicator still reads the single line dash, doesn't pick up any gears. So yeah, I don't know what it is. It probably is the gear indicator itself, so I might order another one, but I'll do a bit of research tonight first, and then go from there. So yeah, bloody bike problems. However, life is not so bad, because I've got myself a fresh cup of vanilla latte, a proper manly drink. Yeah, so yeah, who knows? Everything on a bike is a pain in the ass. So yeah, if anybody's watching this and if you've had the same problem with the gear indicator, so there's different versions, right? So this is the GIpro DS. So basically it takes a direct feed from the OBD port. It doesn't take a feed from the speed sensor, so it just depends on the ECU for all of that. So if anybody's had that problem where it's turning on and it's cycling through its startup, but it just displays the single line dash in the middle of the readout, then yeah, do let me know. If anybody does have any ideas, drop them in the comments and let me know, because I am baffled as to what the problem with this gear indicator is. But hopefully I'll get there soon. But yeah, thanks for watching.